the same time, we have to provide for the needs of the American people. And so, as House Democrats, we're going to continue to work with President Biden.
The exchange began with a moment that nobody watching could mistake for anything but tense. The CNN host, known for pressing hard on inconsistencies and evasions, was face-to-face with Hakeem Jeffries, and within minutes the tone of the conversation shifted. What began as a straightforward segment soon turned into something far sharper, where the host's questions sliced through carefully prepared talking points and demanded clarity. Jeffries, who typically projects calm precision and party unity, found himself repeatedly interrupted, corrected, and pushed back against. The host didn't simply ask questions. They challenged, dissected, and reframed every phrase Jeffries tried to anchor on. It was in that framing where the humiliation unfolded, because the back and forth didn't just reveal discomfort. It exposed gaps in Jeffries' messaging that became impossible to ignore. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The host leaned heavily on facts, data, and Jeffries' own words from earlier interviews, juxtaposing them against the positions he tried to present in real time. That tactic boxed Jeffries in, forcing him to reconcile contradictions live on air without the shield of a prepared speech or a carefully structured press release. Every time he attempted to pivot, the host redirected the spotlight back onto the contradiction. It wasn't loud or theatrical in the sense of a shouting match. Instead, it was surgical. Each question landed like a scalpel, cutting deeper and deeper until the discomfort was visible in Jeffries' expression, posture, and tone. Part of what made the exchange stand out was the relentless pacing. Normally, when politicians face tough questions, they stall or stretch answers into long-winded diversions. Jeffries attempted this, but the host consistently cut him off before the detour could take root. That decision to keep the exchange crisp left Jeffries no room to reset. Viewers could sense the imbalance, one side clearly in control, the other struggling to keep pace. The more Jeffries tried to recover, the more he appeared outmatched, and the more the audience was reminded that polished rhetoric cannot withstand persistent, precise pressure when the groundwork isn't solid. For Jeffries, who has been carefully positioning himself as a steady leader, the optics of this moment were particularly damaging. A national broadcast is not a private briefing or a friendly editorial board meeting. The cameras captured every stumble, every hesitation, every time his voice rose just slightly in irritation. When the CNN host pressed him on issues where clarity should have been easy, the lack of confident answers felt magnified. The humiliation wasn't just in the words exchanged, but in the visible shift of power dynamics. The host became the commanding presence, while Jeffries was reduced to reacting, defending, and deflecting. The symbolism of the confrontation extended beyond one politician and one host. It represented the media's ability, at its sharpest, to strip away layers of political theater and expose vulnerability. When a figure like Jeffries is caught flat-footed, it doesn't merely reflect on him personally, it ripples into how the public perceives the party leadership and their readiness to navigate hostile questioning. The CNN host, perhaps aware of this broader context, seemed intent on demonstrating that even a rising figure with considerable support cannot rely solely on carefully sculpted appearances. Throughout the exchange, Jeffries leaned on familiar lines of rhetoric designed to emphasize party unity, responsibility, and a forward-looking vision. But every time he attempted to pivot toward that broader narrative, the host pulled him back down into specifics. That refusal to allow the conversation to drift highlighted the tension between polished messaging and hard accountability. Watching Jeffries try again and again to elevate the conversation while the host kept grounding it in immediate, pointed questions created a contrast that left him appearing out of step. It was not the sweeping orator standing tall. It was the politician scrambling to avoid further cornering. The reaction in the studio audience, though muted by the formality of a news program, could be felt in the silences. Each pause following a difficult question lingered a bit too long. Each moment Jeffries hesitated before speaking gave weight to the idea that he wasn't prepared for this level of scrutiny. Those silences, paired with the host's unwavering delivery, gave the impression of a man being slowly but thoroughly dismantled in real time. The humiliation was not theatrical embarrassment, but a subtle erosion of authority under the relentless pressure of a live interview. The significance of the moment lies in how it revealed the fragility of even the most carefully curated political image. Jeffries has built his brand on composure, discipline, and the ability to project stability. Yet under the spotlight of tough questioning, the facade cracked. The CNN host exposed a contrast between the leader Jeffries aspires to be and the spokesperson who falters when pressed beyond talking points. That gap between aspiration and execution is where political careers are most vulnerable, and the humiliation stemmed from the fact that millions witnessed it unfold simultaneously. For viewers at home, the dynamic likely evoked a mix of fascination and discomfort. There is a peculiar intensity to watching a public figure unravel, even slightly, under pressure. It forces audiences to reconsider assumptions about confidence and leadership. If Jeffries could not dominate this exchange, what does that say about his ability to confront far more hostile and unpredictable arenas? That unspoken question hovered in the air long after the segment ended, because the exchange had planted a seed of doubt in the minds of those who had come to expect unflappable control from him. The CNN host, for their part, appeared to understand the weight of the moment. There was no gloating, no overt attempt to make the humiliation theatrical. Instead, they pressed forward with a kind of professional detachment, letting Jeffries' own responses, or lack thereof, do the work. That restraint amplified the effect. By avoiding showmanship, the host ensured that the focus remained entirely on Jeffries' inability to withstand the line of questioning. The humiliation, therefore, felt organic rather than orchestrated, which made it even more powerful. This kind of televised exchange has broader implications for how political figures approach media engagement. It demonstrates that relying solely on discipline and scripted messaging can backfire when confronted by an interviewer unwilling to play along. For Jeffries, the incident underscores the need to adapt to unpredictable questioning and to demonstrate substance rather than polished repetition. Without that adaptability, even the most experienced politicians risk being exposed in ways that damage credibility. The longer the exchange continued, the clearer it became that Jeffries was not regaining control. The host kept circling back to the same points, refusing to let the conversation drift into safer waters. Each attempt to reset was intercepted, and each redirection landed Jeffries in a tighter corner. By the end, the cumulative effect was unmistakable. A leader humbled on live television, stripped of the aura of unshakable command that often surrounds him. The immediate takeaway is that media moments like this can reshape perceptions far more quickly than speeches or campaigns. Viewers rarely remember policy minutiae, but they do remember body language, tone, and the visible imbalance of a public confrontation. In this case, the sight of Jeffries appearing rattled against a host who never raised their voice but maintained complete control was enough to alter how the moment will be remembered. Humiliation is not just about being wrong. It is about being made to look unprepared, vulnerable, and off balance when the entire nation is watching. The event also highlights the shifting landscape of political communication. In an era where politicians seek to control their image through curated social media posts and carefully managed appearances, live interviews remain one of the few environments where control can be stripped away. The CNN host demonstrated the enduring power of that format, showing that even in a media environment saturated with spin, there remains space for sharp questioning to cut through and reshape the narrative. For Jeffries, the segment served as a stark reminder that leadership isn't just about delivering messages, it's about surviving moments where the message collapses under scrutiny. Another striking element of the exchange was the way the camera work and broadcast production amplified the imbalance. Close-up shots of Jeffries' face captured the subtle flickers of frustration and unease, while wider angles highlighted the host's calm, authoritative posture. Television is a medium that thrives on visual cues as much as spoken ones, and in this case, the imagery underscored the asymmetry of control. Every time Jeffries leaned forward or raised his voice slightly, the host remained measured, leaning back, signaling composure. The visual contrast painted an unmistakable picture. One side trying to claw back ground, the other side firmly rooted and unshaken. What made the moment especially consequential is that it stripped away the layers of polish that political figures usually rely on. Without the protection of a podium or the safety of a controlled rally, Jeffries was thrust into an environment where his every word could be contested in real time. It became a rare glimpse of vulnerability from someone who has worked meticulously to maintain an image of discipline and steadiness. For viewers, that kind of glimpse lingers because it feels raw and unscripted, something closer to truth than performance. The larger meaning of the humiliation lies in its demonstration of how quickly momentum can shift in a live setting. A politician can walk into a studio expecting to deliver a controlled message, but the moment that message collides with hard, unrelenting questioning, the ground shifts beneath them. Jeffries found himself on that unstable ground, where every second was a struggle to keep his footing. The CNN host didn't need to raise their profile theatrically to achieve this effect. They simply relied on persistence, precision, and refusal to let Jeffries dictate the terms of the exchange. It was this discipline that ensured the moment would be remembered as humiliating rather than routine. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on CNN host humiliating Hakeem Jeffries today? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.